Welcome to the Who Project. I'm your host, Paul Gittens, where I sit down with leading professionals, artists, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Each share their definitions of success, past and present, how they differ, if at all, and what milestones they've set for the next chapter of their lives. This isn't just any podcast. It's a celebration of real stories from real people. Together, we'll explore the choices that have shaped their paths, the challenges they've conquered, and how they bravely carved out lives on their own terms. Each episode is a treasure trove of insights, tools, and inspiring tales to help you ignite your own journey. So buckle up and get ready for some great conversations. Humza, thank you for joining me today. I don't recall when we first met, but I do remember hearing your name around the house, right? And this is the funniest story for me because Jay comes home, right? It's dinner one night and he's declaring he wants the box, right?
Huh.
And I was like, okay, cool, try it, right? His mom's like so concerned, right? Oh, you're gonna get hurt. Then I think that night she calls her mom and tells her mom, and her mom's like mortified, right? She's like, he's gonna, break something and he shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, man? Like, let him try it,
Yeah.
right? And so I guess he tried it, and that was like a hot topic for about 5 minutes around our house because I think maybe the first time he got punched, that was it. It was done. It was done. But don't feel bad, Jay. Jay's here in the studio with us, but don't feel bad because
One of the people, anyway.
I had a friend, Sean, and in high school, the same thing.
Yeah.
And the first time this guy hit me in the nose, I was like, gloves off, man. I'm done. Do you still box?
I don't.
Okay.
It's,
So was it fad for you as well?
I did it for about 4 years, and
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. I did it. I trained for a long time. Then I competed for a couple of years, and
Oh my God.
yeah. So
Add that to the list of accomplishments.
yeah.
Wow. So what grade do you think that was that you guys were in?
So I started a bit before Jamal. I started maybe in grade 10, and I continued until the end of high school. So,
What made you, I'm just curious, what made you get into boxing?
It's a good question. To me, it's just the ultimate sport. I mean, it's so much training's involved. It's one versus one.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it being in my control. I like team sports, but there's something. It's a different feeling about being, the master of your own destiny in that way. Like it's you versus one other person. You know when you're training privately by yourself, you're thinking about if they're training or not. So you're having this mental battle, and you meet them in the ring, and it's see what happens. Yeah.
That's, to me, it's so interesting hearing that because you think you get to know somebody when you're trying to research about them, right? There's always some things that come way out of a left field, and then it makes sense. It's like, aha, now I understand why you do what you do for a living, right? Because it's almost like the same. You could almost take the same training or the same principle, right?
Yeah.
You train. It's you. You got to figure it out, and then you go, right? And it's you against one other person.
Yeah.
Very dope.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, we're not going to give it away yet.
Okay.
So fast forward, and you guys graduate from high school. You're in university, and again, we're at dinner, and he's talking about, Humza. I was like, oh shoot, what's he up to? He's like, yeah, he's off to like Kenya and Uganda and Ghana. And I was like, word? And he's like, yeah, and he's gonna, go over there and build houses. I think that's what he'd said at the time, right? And I was like, wow, man, that's so interesting, right? And then fast forward, and this guy's part of the Innocence Canada, where you successfully lobbied, major cities in Canada to declare October the 2nd National Wrongful Conviction Day. Maybe I'm giving it away a little bit, what you do for a living, but we'll keep going. All the while, you were selected to join the Ted Rogers School of Management's Top 200 Leadership Development Program, exclusively for the top 2% of students in the program. You helped recruit potential students at Ryerson as a recruitment officer. And if that wasn't enough, you still had more bandwidth to work with a Frontier College as a literacy outreach tutor while finishing your undergrad. Man. And you did this while you were preparing to go off to law school. Dude, I mean, like, this is crazy, the things that you've done. All I can say is like, wow. Wow. But don't stop. I'm going to keep going because there's more to talk about here, right? You went on to work, with advocating for inmates with the Canadian and U.S. prison systems. You were a caseworker at Queen's Prison Law Clinic, a legal intern for the Department of Justice Canada. Then you interned, which is interesting, and I want to unpack this as to why. Then you interned at North Carolina Commission of Inquiry on the torture and at the Center for Death Penalty Litigation. Fast forward, it's 2024, and you've been a practicing defense attorney for 4 years? Wow. Man, that's a lot right there. Wow. Okay. I mean, where do we even go? I mean, I think while I was reading all of this, your accomplishments, I was thinking, damn, this dude's done a lot in 13 years from graduating from high school. Do you ever stop and think about that?
It doesn't, it feels 13 years feels like a long time to me. I guess I don't stop to think about it because I think probably like a lot of your guests you've had already, we're always looking at the next thing and what's the next exciting challenge and what else is there to accomplish and new frontiers. So, no, I guess everything feels like a stepping stone towards something else. So you don't spend a lot of time looking back on it. It's just, what else is out there?
Let's put a pin in that because I really want to do a deep dive into the why, right? Like your why, right? Why you think the way you think, right? And how you've navigated, or I like to say stick-handled your way through life thus far. But before we do, I'd like to just get, a little color on the Hussain family, right? And just dive into that for just a few minutes because I always believe that there's a backstory, right? There's a family behind the person that I'm talking, right? And there's friends behind the person that I'm speaking with or having a conversation with. So let me ask you and just put this in frame for our audience. Where were your parents born?
Both my parents were born in Pakistan.
Okay.
And then they immigrated here in the early 90s.
Wow.
So I have an older brother, so he was born there. And then my sister and I were both born in Canada. But my parents came here. They were sort of the first in their family to come here. So pioneers in Canada and, started the story.
So in the 90s. Okay. What was the reason for coming?
So my dad had spent a lot of time in America in his youth, and he loved it. He's at heart a North American. He just loved everything about the opportunities and sports and the culture, and so he always knew he wanted to have his family here. Canada offered the best opportunity to come with a great social safety net. The Trudeau government at the time was very open to immigration. So he sort of was on the fence between Australia and Canada, and he flipped a coin. And
wow,
him and my mom decided to come to Canada.
So does that mean that you don't have any other family here, or did family came after you guys?
No other family.
Really?
Yeah, there's some distant, maybe third or fourth cousins that we sort of would see regularly because my parents wanted us to have some semblance of cousins and things growing up, but no, my grandmother's still back in Pakistan. I have some other family around the world, but no one else here.
Wow. So did your parents have siblings?
My dad does. My mother doesn't.
So you really are a small family.
Yeah, very small, very small.
Wow. Wow. So you said you have an older brother, yeah?
Yes.
Wow. Man. What did and a sister, you said?
Yeah, older brother, older sister.
Okay. So what do they do?
So my brother lives in New York City. He's a journalist.
Come on.
Yeah. He's done very well for himself. He's lived in New York for the past 10 years now. He moved when he was 26, and he's been there ever since, working for different media outlets. My sister works in sales, and she just moved back to Ajax, but she's living in Toronto with her husband for a while.
Wow. So you know what's really interesting to me is it sounds like your parents gave you guys the wings to just to fly, right? So they would, you didn't hold your brother back from like going, even though you guys were such a tight,
Yeah.
small family. You know, it was like go, right? And wow, that's amazing, man. To hear about that, because I know as an immigrant and having really a tiny family, we had some family here, not a lot, right? It was so tight knit, and I felt like I still feel like to this day that you know our parents want to keep everybody like close within
Right.
proximity, right?
Right.
And didn't really want them to fly and spread their wings. So I can only imagine that your family is. I mean, you're all achievers, clearly, but you're just really. They got to be really proud of you, man, as the baby.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, just on that point, my parents didn't have aspirations for us to go and travel and to do
Hmm,
different careers.
really?
We all went to the same program at Ryerson. We all did commerce, Ryerson, undergraduate, exact same majors, everything.
Why is that?
It's because they saw my brother do it, and my brother was able to graduate and had a career, not one that he liked very much at the time,
Right.
but it worked. He was paying the bills, and
Wow.
we were low risk, and that was we saw it work, so we just replicated the formula. But um, my parents encouraged that because they were nervous about anything else, but they did not limit us to do other things after that. So as I said, my brother did commerce at Ryerson, and he worked at the bank after, and it was very miserable. Like, he really hated it, and
Yeah.
but then he got a big following off from Twitter, just tweeting about international politics and foreign affairs, and ultimately was offered a job in New York, and then moved there. And my parents supported that, and they were nervous about it, but they didn't hold them back. And I did commerce as well, but I never wanted to work at the bank myself. I wanted to go to law school. So they said, well, if it doesn't work out, like, you can work at the bank. So I did that. And then my sister did commerce, and she works in sales, and she liked it, and it worked out for her. So it's a different same starting point as sort of from a place of fear, but after that we were free to do our own thing.
You know what I find remarkable, man, is that when you immigrate to this country, right? Or if you're first generation, right? Canadian, and you'll hear me talk about this, as we continue to have a conversation. But I like to talk about the power of possibility, right? And to me, it's such a juxtaposition because you have to have the power of possibility in my mindset, right? You have to have the power of possibility mindset to be able to leave your home country, right? And travel across the globe, right? And then just arrive somewhere. But when they do that, they then become so damn pragmatic. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so you're going to study business because you can get a good job at the bank, right? And it's almost like they being parents and grandparents, whatever, guardians, it's like they do that heavy lifting so you don't have to do it, right? But I've found so many times, so many conversations that, man, they like, not your particular case, but people I've spoken to, it's like they almost get held back, right? From realizing your true potential, or I like to say now, is living the best version of yourself, right? So that's what I love the story about your brother, right? Coming out, doing commerce, going to the bank, and then finding his way to live the best version of himself, right? Which is a journalist in New York City,
Yeah.
right? And who knew, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right? From doing Twitter.
Right.
That's amazing. So your sister's in sales, is it in the financial sector?
No,
Okay.
it's sales marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, listen, what's my takeaway from this? Build a foundation, right? And then you always have that plan. You know what I mean? Like plan B is I
Yeah.
got my foundation. But what made, like, I don't even want to, dude, I want to get into it, but I'm not going to get into it yet. I want to close the loop
Yeah.
on your family, because that's a lot of color there, man. It's
Yeah.
really interesting to me that this young family in the 90s comes to Canada, and this is the Canadian dream.
Yeah.
This is what they dreamt about.
Yeah.
Right? And it's been realized.
Yeah.
So I understand your father passed away a year ago. Man, I can only imagine now that you've put so much context around your family, how difficult that must have been for all of you.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. That's pretty deep. Did your father want you to be a lawyer?
My father never had any specific dreams for me as far as a career. He was always primarily concerned that we were all happy and that we were all safe and our basic needs were met. So to your point, I think our parents were so ambitious and so such risk takers for themselves, but with the hope that life would be easy and safe and controlled for us, because they must have known how risky it was. And just because it worked out for them, they didn't want us to have to take the risk. So my dad, of course, was very happy when I became a lawyer, but he didn't need me to be, and he didn't even expect me to be. He just but he was very proud. He used to come to my trials and he used to watch and we'd talk about it. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It meant a lot to both of us. So yeah.
That's really interesting. I think as a parent myself, right? And one of the things I try to pride myself on is not to live vicariously through my kids.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he wasn't doing that either. He just wanted you guys to be happy and safe. So how do you, sounds like you had a good relationship with him, right?
Yeah.
How do you honor him now that you've been able to process this for a year, and like when you think about him, like what do you think?
Yeah. So I never reflected on it until he passed, and it never really crossed my mind. I was sort of it just wasn't something that I had put any thought into. So only when he passed did I immediately start thinking about first in a more practical way, just the void he left and what my duties and responsibilities were now that he's gone. So I mean, so again, sort of on a practical level, he took care of the house, he took care of my mom. So I knew I had to do that and step up and fill that role. And as I reflected on his life, and I still do all the time now, I think about the fact that he always did the right thing. And he didn't have a lot of ambition career-wise, and he didn't care to make a lot of money. He just wanted to be around and be present. And that's what I think is important now. I think your relationships with people are what's the most important. Again, he couldn't give me a lot financially. I paid my own way through school. I was buying my own things as soon as I could get a job when I was 14 or 15. But it means nothing to me that he didn't do that for me.
Right.
It's I only think the world of him because I know how much he cared about me and how much he thought about me. And, I understand that relationships are all that matters. Nothing else really matters. So, since his passing, I just wanted to make sure that I'm there for my family, my friends, and I do as much as I can for everybody, because that's what carries the day. It's not anything else.
And that's how you're honoring him, right?
Yeah.
You're paying that forward.
Yeah.
You had a great role model.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. I love that. I think there's no self-entitlement. I deserve this, I deserve that, right? You just went with it, and now you can reflect back on his life, and you're saying that's how I want to lead my life. That's wild.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's smiling.
Yeah.
He's smiling. So today marks the 12th episode. We've talked about this. This is the 12th episode of Legacy. And from the outset, I've wanted to honor the accomplishments of first and second generation Canadians and provide a platform for guests to celebrate their achievements and share their inspiring stories. My goal is to leave behind a digital legacy that documents the resilience of people from all corners of the world, right? That came to Canada because they shared a common mindset. And that's what we were just talking about, right? That, we kind of foreshadowed that, but talking about the power of possibility, right? So I define it, right, as the willingness to see possibilities everywhere instead of limitations, with the correct thinking behind them. That's the caveat, right? The correct thinking behind them. What intrigues me is with a population of 8 billion people on Earth that our paths have crossed. I was thinking about this week, right? Like there's 8 billion people on this planet, right? How is it that we are sitting in front of each other right now, right? Like how does that work and why, right? And, as I reflected on that, I started to think that it didn't matter what our stories were, what our household composition was, what our social economic status was, our ethnicity, our religion, or even when we immigrated to Canada, or even if we were born here in Canada, right? It's that why that motivates first and second generation Canadians, right? Like why? And that's the thing that really drives me to continue to do these episodes, because I think there's a lot of power in understanding the why. Right? I think a lot of it has to do with the idea of success, right? So even for our parents, if they couldn't get that success for themselves, they were okay to lay the foundation for their kids to get that success. But it's how you define success, right? So all that we've just said about your mother and your father and your siblings, would you agree that the power of possibility, if we had to capture what they've done, do you think that we could capture it in saying that they had to have this mindset?
So when we talked just before the podcast about the power of possibility, it's such a big, it's almost an overwhelming concept for me to wrap my head around. Because I think on some level, everybody has it. To get out of bed in the morning, you have to have some belief that something good will happen, or you can do something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning. And I think immigrants and first generation people sort of have that on steroids, because they're not getting better out of bed in the morning. They're leaving their home. They're traveling to an unknown place.
Huge.
It's taken to the extreme. The power of possibility.
That's a daunting task.
Yeah, it's almost unconceivable to think of. When I think of it, I think it's an interesting idea for me. Imagine if I just packed up and left one day.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could ever actually act on it. And it started.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I guess I mean, listen, my parents did it, so I guess it must be in me on some level. But
well, you know what? Listen, I said really, like I was curious because you're younger, obviously, than I am, right? And I still talk about that today, right? Like my wife and I talk about, is Canada like, our final destination, right? Do we have the courage, the fortitude to pick up and go somewhere else, right? And that goes back again to that, my belief that they had to have this mindset that they were going to get somewhere and it was going to be better. But when they got here, they all of a sudden it's like, they go, okay, well, that's it. We're here, right? Like we've landed in the best place and you guys are going to spend the rest of your life here, right? Because this was our plan. And I don't know, for me, like the fear of leaving and starting new, right?
Yeah.
Is it's crazy.
Yeah. And actually, I don't. You might even remember this conversation, but you're the first one to ever put it into my head that maybe I don't live here forever. Because growing up, my parents had told me, we came here, this is the best country in the world, and we did this for you.
Yeah.
So on some level, I guess I internalized that if I were to leave Canada, it would be a betrayal of what they did. They chose this place and they loved it and they gave it to me. And am I rejecting that if I leave? And only when speaking with you, I realized I have a responsibility to reassess.
Yes, you
do.
You do. And it's really interesting, man. And this conversation is just going to go, it's going to go all over the place, but I love it. So here's the thing. It's the Canadian dream, right? And it was a blueprint. Parents taught you, get an education, have a career, find a partner, buy a house, have kids, and live happily ever after.
Right.
Right. And so much has shifted in the last 50 years, but we really say in the last 20 something years, right? Like the entire economy has shifted, right? So that blueprint no longer works, right? And so think about it. Even when they came, right? 20 something years ago, 30 something years ago, sorry,
Yeah.
right? There was this idea that it was possible, right? You could get to Canada, you could find work, right? If you had a little bit of money with you, or you could save enough money, and you could, if you were really, if you had a lot of discipline, and you could buy your home, right? And so I'm seeing this shift, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that plan worked for them,
Right.
right? Just like maybe the plan that their parents had was never to leave, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
however it shakes out. But each generation's got to have their own plan,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think about that too. To your point, I think about that. I'm like, the day will come, my parents will pass, and if I go live in Costa Rica, let's just say,
Yeah.
right? I won't be able to go visit them at their cemetery, you know what I mean? Because my mother does that for her mother, right? And her father, right? And then you feel like you'll be betraying them.
Right.
Or whenever I talk about, you know what, I'm going to wheels up and leave this country. Oh, no, you can't do that. What do you mean? You can't do that. So it's really interesting, man, that we feel this sense of obligation. So I tell my kids this all the time now. I'm like, you got to do you.
Yeah.
You got to live your life for you, because I'm not always going to be here.
Right.
Right. So don't feel like you're tied to me and your mother. Right. Just go be you.
Right.
Right. And if you don't want to do that, then I understand. Like, if you don't want to leave, I understand it, but don't feel like you can't leave because of us.
Right.
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 That's really interesting. So I want to switch gears a little bit, man. And I really want to get into like your why. And one of the things that struck me when I was looking at, all the things that you've accomplished, right? And you spent a lot of time and walk me through this, but you spent a lot of time, seems like working, in human rights, right? And I don't know if that was part of what you had to do, or that was just a part of you, right? So walk me through, all those things that I listed that, when you interned, why you interned, where you interned.
Yeah. Well, I guess primarily I thought it was interesting, and natural curiosity took me to different places. I think everyone, starting with, I guess, Innocence Canada and wrongful conviction work, I think everyone can feel interested in that, and how it can happen, and how our system that's meant to uphold justice and protect us and give us a fair opportunity to dispute allegations against us, how it can go so wrong,
Right.
and how innocent people can spend their lives in jail. So I think anyone's interested in that, and I was interested to a level where I needed to see it firsthand and talk with those people and see if I could do it, because to me it's an incredible miscarriage of justice for that to happen, and I had to see why it was happening. I needed to see it, so I got into it early on. But sort of when I was younger, the volunteer work I did and the traveling I did, I didn't feel like I was necessarily helping. I needed to just learn. So I was more learning. I knew that from the beginning, that I needed to see what was going on before I could meaningfully make any kind of difference. So when I was traveling to different parts of sub-Saharan Africa, I never felt like I needed to go help. It was more, I need to see it for myself, and then assess and then figure it out later.
Question: did your siblings do that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you went off and
Yeah.
did that on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So did you always know that you wanted to be a defense attorney?
Yes.
When did you know that?
Early on in elementary school, I knew I wanted to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, by
Yeah.
the way. I think so many of us spend our lives not really knowing. I think we don't tap into who we really are, right? And what motivates us. So when I hear stories like this, and you tell me in elementary school you knew you wanted to be a lawyer, and now all these many years later you are. That's unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, and it was always very specific too. It wasn't just to be a lawyer necessarily. It was to be a criminal defense lawyer doing trials in front of juries. It was that specific for me. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. So I'm preparing for this and I saw this quote. I read this quote and I thought, oh my goodness, this is Humza. So I'm going to read it, right? And it's, the fight is won or lost away from the witnesses, behind the lines, in the gym, and out there on the road, long before I dance under those lights. Muhammad Ali, right? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I just found something super cool because here's a guy that was, that boxed, so you can understand the boxing. And then that's why I was trying to connect the dots earlier, and I thought I would leave it to this moment because in my mind, the boxing and being in the courtroom seems so methodical to me, right? Like the way your mind works.
yeah.
So I thought it was cool. I thought it was a really cool quote.
Yeah, it to me it's the same feeling for sure. It's obviously different skill set, of course, but it's the same feeling.
I mean, is that how you approach like a case, right? Like, you do obviously you do all that prep work, right? And then is it like the movies where do you actually practice? Do you stand in front of the mirror and do the? I just watched Presumed Innocent with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Great show,
right? I love that show, right? And then there was that moment where he was going to do at one point he was going to defend himself, and he's in the bathroom or something, or he was in the garage and he's he was rehearsing. Like,
yeah.
Is that just the movies, or like do you actually? Because I know being in media sales for so many years, right? Like you just you get your script and you read it and you try to perfect it.
Yeah. No, I do that all the time. When I'm driving, when I'm pacing around the house, I'm picturing what I'm going to say because it has to be truthful. I mean, one thing I've learned is and it's probably the same thing in sales as it is in a jury trial or a trial to a judge alone. You have to believe what you're saying because if it's inauthentic, people can feel it. I think we really underestimate people's ability to sense whether someone's genuine or authentic or not. I think the people believe, or a lot of people believe, that they can fool somebody or pull the wool over their eyes. And I think people have an innate ability to sense genuine connection and if someone's being real with them. So when I practice what I'm saying, I'm trying to get the right words that reflect what I believe, because I know if I believe it, then they'll believe it as well. So it's not, some people can view it as maybe you're trying to pick the right words that'll appeal to them, but you're really trying to pick the right words that you can stand behind. Because if you can stand behind the words and they're truthful to you, then I believe that they'll land with the person, because I think truth is something that we can recognize.
Wow. I'm listening to you and I'm like, wow. Because there are definitely similarities, so I can honestly affiliate with what you're saying, right? But how do you know, like when you're in the courtroom, like how do you make that connection with the jury? How do you, beyond the words, right?
Yeah.
Listen, there's got to be, and you don't have to give away the secret sauce here, right? But I'm sure, I guess what I'm trying to articulate is that I'm sure that there's certain things that you have to do, make eye contact, or you've got to, try to find something that the jury could connect with emotionally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In order to make that connection. I mean, the facts are the facts, right? And either the person did it or they didn't do it. What bothers you more? The person that did it and is trying to get off, or the person that didn't do it and you're trying to get them off?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question, and it's since I started telling people I want to be a defense lawyer, the question's always, how can you defend those people?
Right.
Or what do you do if you know they did it? Those are the two most common questions I've gotten over and over again, and I'll continue to get them. So
yeah, for sure.
So it's and that's not exactly your question, but I imagine anyone watching that's what they're thinking, because it's been my experience. But to answer your question first, it's far harder to defend somebody that is factually innocent and legally innocent as well, because they are oftentimes coming to you saying they're accusing me of this crime, whether it's murder or whether it's a robbery or some kind of sexual offense.
Right.
And they say, I did not do this. My life is on the line. Can you help me? Can you prove my innocence? And that places a tremendous burden on you, because you get to know the family, you get to know their life and their history, and you know that in a lot of ways their life is on the line. And that can mean life in prison, or it can mean they're branded as a criminal or a sex offender, and they'll never be the same. And it's a tremendous responsibility. And when you believe in their innocence, it makes it way harder, because you feel that it's up to you. And strictly speaking, it's not. You can only do the best you can, but it feels that way. So it's hard to sleep, because you're just thinking of how you can prove it, because they're depending on you. Now, when they did it, it's I work just as hard, but it's a different kind of feeling, because ultimately, if they did it, they made a choice, and most times they accept what they've done,
Right.
but they're still seeking help and guidance. And I'll say this: it's most cases where the person is guilty, it's a guilty plea. That's about 95% of the time. If they've done it, then
they fess up.
Then they fess up, and if the evidence points to them, and you tell them, look, the police have investigated you, it's going to be very difficult to argue anything else. So I recommend you admit fault, and I will advocate for the lightest sentence possible for you, and we'll show the court your history and your prospects of rehabilitation, and that they don't need to take your life away for 5 to 10 years. You can serve your sentence in the community, or you can do a shorter sentence. So that's the majority of work. Now, there's also another category, which is the majority of work I do, which is cases involving charter violations. And what that means is oftentimes it's a young person of color walking down the street, and the police will, place them under arrest because they match a description of somebody they're looking for, search them, put them in handcuffs, put them on the sidewalk, pat them down, take them to the station, do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes they find a weapon on them or drugs on them, and they're charged.
Yep.
Now, that person's factually guilty of committing a crime, but the state violated their rights in order to figure that out.
Yep.
So the majority of stuff I do is challenging the police conduct. And if a judge believes that the police should not have treated this person this way, regardless of what happened, then the case is thrown out. So in that case, it's not about guilt or innocence. It's about challenging the state and whether they got to the right result, but through the wrong means. And that's the majority of what I do. And that's very important for everybody, not just for the individual, but we need to be able to hold police accountable and hold the state accountable. Otherwise, they can kick in your door because they suspect you're doing something, and no one will be there to stop them.
So that's like punching your plates, pulling you over, and then, if you're a criminal, then shit, you're in trouble, right?
Right.
It's almost like what now, and the OPP, right? Can now, if they pull you over on the highway, they automatically can give you a breathalyzer now,
right?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, like, it's just like, where does it stop, right? Like, it was one of the things, as a black man, right, and having black children, that always petrified me, right? With my kids being out, right, at night. And I'll never forget this story. Our first home, right, on the street, we'd befriended this couple, and she was his teacher, and he was a firefighter, right? And they were both biracial, right? And he's the firefighter, and I'll never forget, and probably this was Jay's worst nightmare, because we're sitting, they had a party one night, we went over there, and then, so firefighters, no cops, right? And the cops come over, and they're like, get what they called it now, man. There's a number, a sequence of number, 211 or 111, so with some weird combination numbers. But basically, what they were saying is that, we just remember that whole thing went through where you got carded. They called it carding at one point when you guys were teenagers.
Yeah.
Right. And They were like, yeah, if you're, we just pull kids over and right, and then we get their address, we get them in the system,
Right.
and then if something happens in the neighborhood, they show up at your door, right, and they start asking questions.
Where were you on this date? Yeah.
I'll never forget this. I know I'm veering off a little bit, but I remember Jay being like 16, maybe 15, right, and he wanted to go to the movies, right, with the girl, Ajax,
Yeah.
right? So I took him to, dropped him off at the movies. His siblings are really young at this point. And so mom and I, kids went to sleep. Mom and I are watching a movie, calls me, Dad, movie's done. I go pick him up, right? And we were watching a movie. So I stopped at the 7-Eleven. You'll know where that 7-Eleven is.
Yeah.
I pulled in there, right? And I said, I'm going to get a bag of chips, right?
Yeah.
And that could have been like the biggest mistake of my life, right? Because, a cruiser comes in and I turn to Jay and I go, watch what's about to happen. We pull out, right? So we pull out onto Roslyn to go left on Harwood. So we're heading north. And as soon as I get by the high school, they light me up, right? And then they come to the car. Both of them come out on both sides, right? And he goes, hey, how are you tonight? It's like, I'm fine. How can I help you, officer? And he goes, well, we had calls of, someone driving a red BMW erratically. So I started laughing, right? And he's like, what's so funny? I said, well, I just picked up my son from the movies and I was at home with my wife watching a movie. So I literally 7-minute drive. I don't. Oh, well, since I got you here, can I get your license and registration, right? And then they're asking Jay for his ID, and Jay's like 15 years old. I don't have any ID on me. And I'm like, why are you asking him for ID? Right? And they go, well, he could be out on, bond. I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you seriously having this conversation with me? And I turn to Jay and I go, see, Jay, this is what happens, right? So you've got to play this like super cool. And man, they went back to their cruiser and they must have taken 10 minutes. And, I don't have so much of a speeding ticket, right? So they come back and then they had the gall to ask me, do you live in this area? I was like, yeah, I sure do.
Yeah.
Right? How long have you been in this area? Right? And I was so angry, like when I drove away, very cordial, right? Because I knew that this could go from 0 to 100 quickly. Yeah. Right? So I answered their questions. I drove off. I think I called the desk sergeant the next morning, right? Yeah. And, to say like, this is ridiculous. Like, what are you guys doing? And I quickly realized that nothing was going to happen.
Right.
Right. So, that was like a lesson for him to learn. Right.
Yeah.
And when you're out, we just have to be more vigilant.
Right.
Right.
So, and it's such a common experience because I have a case right now. It's going to go to trial in about 3 weeks. It's my client is in a car with 2 of his friends and they're driving, and the police, some undercover unit, believes that the driver has a gun. They have very little basis to believe this. Some random informant has told them apparently that this driver has a gun. They're driving a nice car. So they box in the car. They all get out of the car with their firearms drawn. These kids are 19 years old, order them out of the car, put them in handcuffs, throw them to the ground, and search them all. The guy in the back seat has a small amount of, I think it's MDMA on him, and they charge everybody with possession of a Schedule I substance. And, this happens very, very frequently. And so the Crown has a difficult case to prove that, first of all, my guy is the one who had drugs because his friend is carrying some. Right. And also, all that's going to happen in a best case scenario is my client's charges get dropped. But he has to now remember that driving with his friends, doing nothing wrong, he was pulled over at gunpoint and forced on the ground and handcuffed, and drugs were found. He has to live with that forever. And people think like no harm, no foul. Like, they didn't actually hurt him and he can go on his day. Yeah. It's not a big deal. And the police should have the right to be able to investigate things and take the means that they need to. And it's a dangerous job, but people don't appreciate how much this stuff sticks with you for forever. You don't forget it. You remember the details of it because
Yeah.
it wrongs you.
Yeah.
And there's no recourse. So we need to push back against these things. And that's the role of the defense lawyer, to say you can't do this.
Never mind, he's had to incur the cost
Yeah,
of a
right.
lawyer,
Right.
right? And I'd like to think. No, let me ask this question. I'm not going to make any assumptions,
Yeah.
right? The cases that what you say is the bulk of your work, would these be racialized or marginalized people,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So probably in specific neighborhoods across the GTA,
Yeah.
right, that this occurs, right? And then the cycle continues and it continues and it continues.
I don't even think it's a nefarious thing. I think what happens is, I'd say this: there's probably as much cocaine in Yorkville as there is in the inner city and the lower income areas.
There's even more.
There's even more. But police aren't going there investigating Yorkville and arresting people, because you end up arresting someone's son who's very powerful, or a politician's kid. And the police don't want those problems, and to deal with high paid lawyers who are going to come and bring, every motion under the sun to vindicate their kid. They'll go to lower income areas, and they pick a kid off the street, frisk him, arrest him. If they find drugs, great. If they don't, no one's going to say anything. The person doesn't have connections to go and hold the police accountable. They're just going to go about their day. So, and police, it's a job. They need to make arrests. They need to show their supervisors that they're getting drugs off the street. So where will they go? The path of least resistance, or these neighborhoods where they're going to get into huge fights and maybe get into trouble with people? So, the system sort of creates incentives in different ways. And, you find crime where you look for it, and you look for it in places where you have more license to look for it. And, we just see this stuff playing out over and over again.
So, I mean, we set the frame and said you've been doing it for 4 years. Like, what keeps you awake at night? Like, does this kind of stuff keep you awake at night, knowing that right now, at this very moment, like, shit's hitting the fan, and some kid, this is happening to some kids, right? Or adults out there. Like, do you think it can wear on you? Do you think does it get heavy?
Yeah, it gets heavy. I mean, so much of my client base is younger kids. And I spent a lot of time in prisons, both in America and in Canada.
Yeah.
And prisons are really violent, psychologically damning places. And if I have a kid who is selling drugs and he's 19 and he really hasn't developed his prefrontal cortex yet, and he's trying to make a bit of money for jewelry or for sneakers, but then the drugs he's selling earn him a 5-year sentence. He just hasn't thought about that. Now he's in jail for 5 years with some of the hardest criminals, murderers, dangerous people. When that person comes out, he'll only be 24, but the odds of him going to university and figuring it out and having a normal life after that are greatly reduced. Now his only associates for the past 5 years have been other criminals, and he's not had an education, he's not had a healthy environment to grow and develop, and his course changes forever. So I said earlier that the hardest cases are the ones where they're innocent, but oftentimes it's just as difficult to work on cases where you see a kid and by all other metrics, he's a good kid, but he just thought, I can make some money selling drugs. Some older guy told me, just go run these routes, and his life is forever changed. And if I can win a case for him, and he's shell shocked enough about this whole experience, he can go on to go to school and go to university, and this could have just been a blip in his life, and he goes on and he starts a family, and everything's different. So sometimes I feel pressure to win, because I know how big this moment is. Whoever that jury comes back with, it's gonna change the course of his life.
So how do you take it? Like, I'm sure you've lost a case or two.
No, so I haven't lost any big ones yet.
Ooh, excuse me. Presumptuous.
Yeah.
Well, I should know better, because this guy right here, he's making waves here in Toronto. I mean, you just look at the Toronto Star, right? You've written up in the Toronto Star and other publications about the work that you're doing and the cases that you're winning. So, I mean, kudos to you, right? For clearly you're talented at what you're doing. So, a part of my presumption is of assuming that you've lost a case. So you haven't lost any major cases. You're winning them, but how do you think you would deal with a loss?
Yeah, so I should clarify. I've lost plenty of cases. There are sort of two levels. There's the Ontario Court of Justice, which is generally smaller sentences.
Okay.
So when I started my career, I did a lot of
School me.
yeah, I did a lot of cases. Just I did a lot, mostly really simple legal aid type cases.
Okay.
So let's say a person who's homeless steals from the LCBO.
Okay.
I'll run trials like that, and I've lost plenty of those ones. They're superior court trials where you're dealing with big cases where the sentences are between 5 or 10 or 20 years. And those are often before juries. So I haven't done. I've done 4 of those so far, and I've been successful with those ones.
So how do you get those? Like, so you cut your teeth on the lower court, right?
Yeah.
Then how do you get those bigger cases?
Yeah. So it's sort of word of mouth, and I have a great mentor who's given me cases and told me that I'm ready for them, and then he will support me through it, and he will help me review and come up with my defense and meet with the client, and then he lets me go on my own. And so the first juries I've done were his clients that he has told them he'll do a good job for you. He vouched for me.
Wow.
And then when I was successful, then those people referred me to other people they knew needed help, and it sort of snowballed from there.
So having a mentor, sponsor, right? Somebody to bring you up has clearly been integral, right? And you
Yeah.
building your confidence over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So when did you get your very first, is it Superior Court case? When was that?
I was in my second year.
Wow.
Yeah, it was early on. It was a very emotional case, and but my mentor, and his name's Hussain Ali, trusted me with the file, and he helped me come up with my defense, and he was with me the whole way, and it gave me a lot of confidence.
I can't even get my mind. I'm listening to you talking. I'm like, I don't even know how you got through all them law books. Never mind. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Never mind. Like all of that, being able to just retain all of that. And then you get a case. And then again, I'm going to sound, ignorant here, but you got to go and review different cases, like, previous cases to see if you can find commonalities and how you build your case. Is that how you start to build your own case?
Yeah. I mean, so I think criminal law particularly, is a lot more intuitive than people think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much storytelling. It's very much, this is what the Crown's saying happened here, but they weren't there, and you weren't there, and I wasn't there.
Right.
Ask yourself, does that make sense? And consider this. Is this a possibility as well? This is what my client is saying actually happened. Does that not give you any doubt as to what happened here? It's really just storytelling, and whoever tells a more compelling story, and a story that it feels more truthful, the jury tends to side with, because it's narrative. It's just
Wow.
yeah.
So what advice would you give, somebody that's listening to this episode and they go, wow, this is really interesting. This Humza's done a lot of interesting things, right? And, he's been a part of, different organizations and helping in the prison systems. And I think I'm curious in that. Like, I think I could be a defense attorney, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give, the person that's thinking that right now, that they want to go that route?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you like speaking, if you like being involved in a high stakes environment, I think that's the biggest thing, because if it's going to overwhelm you, then you'll never be able to enjoy it. And if you can't enjoy it, then it's grueling, because like I said, it's so high stakes.
So how do you stay calm? Or do you?
I try to. I think mostly I'm able
Meditate?
to.
You do yoga?
I do meditate actually, consistently, which has been a lifesaver, by the way.
Yeah.
Meditation to me is I don't know if I could have done this had I not developed a consistent meditation practice.
Yeah.
Because it really allows me to control my thoughts. But
I meditate too, man.
yeah,
100%. Yeah, it kind of centers you, and there's there's this one I constantly go to, right, about popping out of your thoughts, right, and like concentration, right, like being able to concentrate and not let your mind run away. And I can only imagine if you like we were talking pre, the show, and you're telling me you've got like how many case files you have, right, and then you're telling me like, well, they're not all active, and this one might start in 6 months from now, but I got to remember, that one might be coming up. Like it could get really overwhelming, right, if you're not centered and grounded, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great point, man. Like, you have to have the right, I'd say, personality for it.
Yeah.
Right. You might love the, I mean, at times I can be you could be, it could be like, you're telling stories and it's a showdown and you get the adrenaline from doing it and it's high stakes and am I going to win? Am I going to lose?
Yeah.
But what I'm getting from you in this conversation is like, it's grounded on like how you feel about people.
Right.
And how you feel about injustice.
Right.
Right. And then how you feel about what you have to do your part.
Right.
Right. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly the right way to look at it. It's not winning or losing, and it's not you against the prosecutor. There's a real person here, and it's about truth and it's about justice. And justice can mean getting this person a fair sentence. It doesn't mean having him walk for doing a terrible thing. It's really not what we do. It's if my client, like I said, is 19 years old and he gets threatened by some guy in a gang, so his response is I should get my own gun in case they try to come for me.
Right.
And that I'm thinking of a client in particular. And then he is driving and the police pull him over and they smell cannabis in the car and they search the car and search him because they're doing a Cannabis Act search, which is a whole separate topic. And they find a firearm on him. And
that's a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's people thought when weed became legal that everyone was okay. But in reality, it's led to an incredible amount of random searches, full pat down, full have your car totally looked at because there's a smell of cannabis in the car.
But I thought it's legal.
Yeah, so it's legal. It's no longer criminal, but now there's a whole regulatory body around it, which includes you can't drive with open cannabis in the car.
Yes.
So if an officer pulls you over for, let's say, your tail light or something, and oftentimes they smell cannabis.
Right.
And it's a very hard thing to prove whether they smell it or not after the fact, but they say they smell it. So now you're out of your car, you're being pat down, searched, your bags are being run through, your car is being searched, the trunk, everything's being searched. So oftentimes these are what we call ruse searches. They suspect you're involved in crime for no reason, maybe other than your race, but they smell cannabis and now they have legitimate grounds in law to search you. So while it became legal, it created a whole regime for police to do an investigation into you for the regulatory fines. So they can give you a ticket for it, but
for being open in the car,
for smelling
example,
it.
They can give you a ticket for smelling it?
No, sorry. It gives them grounds to search for it if they smell it. Now, if they find it, they'll give you a ticket. But oftentimes they're not just looking for cannabis, looking for something else. They don't care about giving you a $40 ticket for having open cannabis. They're interested in other reasons. And once the data comes out, there's no real data on it yet. Who is getting Cannabis Act searched? Are they
collecting data?
No, they're not collecting data. But I have no doubt that it'll come back to almost all young racialized people. But just to sort of round off that point, so the kid who's threatened because he's dated the girlfriend of a guy who's in a gang, says, I need to get a gun to protect myself.
Right.
He's pulled over because a cop smells cannabis in the car. They find a gun in the trunk. The prosecutor wants between 3 to 5 years in a penitentiary for this person. That person, if we can't prove his innocence, maybe he's not innocent in this case. And in this case, he's not innocent. But I can tell the prosecutor, this kid's in school. He got scared. He's from a good family. He's enrolled in college. Let him serve his sentence in the community. Give him 2 years of house arrest. Don't put him in jail for 5 years, because I can guarantee you that he will be no good to the community if he's released. And so that's what justice looks like to me in some cases. It's not let him walk or punish him. It's give him something that will teach him a lesson and let him continue to live.
Yeah, and I say this with such caution, right? It's like the pragmatist in me says, don't smoke weed. You know what I mean? Or don't have it in your car.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just don't do it.
Right.
Right? It's like don't drink and drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, still, people are going to do what they're going to do. But it's almost like, you know, these young people need a real lesson. You know, they need some education around, you know, legalities and how one mistake can change, you know, the trajectory of their life, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And so that being said, I mean, you know, I'm thinking about like, wow, man, like, are there even programs out there? Like how do you even speak to these kids? Like to, you know, to try and keep them on, you know, a straight and narrow. That's so difficult to do.
Yeah, and I think it's in some ways not even possible. Like the teenagers are kids, and I think maybe we have to change the age of what an adult is, because an 18, 19-year-old, you know, to think you can educate them enough to not drink and then get in a car or get drunk and meet up with a girl at a party and then you know there's allegation after that. Like I just think it's wishful thinking to think we'll ever talk young people out of these things. It's just they're going to make mistakes, and the question is, what's the punishment?
You know, that's this to me. It all rolls up to parenthood. You know, and having a strong, you know, family unit, right? Or mentors or sponsors, like somebody in your life, right? That you can speak to, because, you know, I think that the best of us will make mistakes. Yes. Right. We've all probably done dumb shit when we were young. Right. But again, just because you may live in a certain part of the city, you're polarized. It's going to become even more difficult for you to maneuver in and around your community without being, you know, this happening to you. So it's sad in so many ways, because we are privileged, right? That we don't see it. You know, it's prevalent and it's out there. You know, being a part of senior leadership, you know, in the world in which I live in, right? So many times core values gets brought up, right? The word, you know, the phrase core values. And, you know, I did this interesting exercise about core values, right? I figured if we do it for an organization, if an organization is going to ask, you know, like what motivates us and what drives us, right? I did the exercise for myself, right? I asked myself to, you know, what are my core values? And when I realized that when I wrote my core values, they didn't necessarily line up with how I was actually living. Right. And then that's where I realized that that's where my challenge has been for such a long time. Right. Like where you feel misaligned, if you will. Right. So my question to you, right, is like, have you ever thought about that? Like consciously, because I think you know exactly your core values, but did you ever consciously do that? And if you have, cool. And if you haven't, why not? And then the last part of that is, like, how do we get people to start thinking that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's because of the nature of my work, it's you're constantly thinking about ethical things. You're constantly, you know, you're in the middle of a terrible incident that's occurred.
Right.
So the nature of my job is I'm constantly negotiating. Is this right? Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
What can I say that's truthful and that's honest and that I can live with?
So that's always front and center.
It's in every decision. It's how do I feel about what's happening here? So it's and that informs what cases I take and what cases I don't take, and it also, ultimately, people ask me if I could ever be a prosecutor, and because I've only ever done defense work,
Yeah.
so it's always only what I've wanted to do, and it's a hard question because the role of prosecutor is extremely important, and we need it in our society,
Right.
because accountability is so important. Okay, if we don't have accountability, then nothing will work. If
Right.
someone can do something wrong and nothing will happen to them, and they don't have to even admit they did it, then we can't exist in a society.
Right.
My difficulty with it is that I don't believe that the prison system is good for anybody. I don't think it makes us safer. I don't think it's a good use of resources. I don't think it's good for the person.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
So if my role is a prosecutor, that I, in certain situations, have to seek prison for somebody who could be young or older or an offense that I don't think warrants it, I can't ask for something that I don't think is good for anybody. And that's why I think my answer for now, at least, is I can't be a prosecutor unless we can come up with a better system for those that we hold accountable. And on another level, I think in some situations, if you're a prosecutor for 20 years, you have to, I mean, statistically, it's probably most likely that you've prosecuted somebody that was probably innocent or ended up being innocent.
Yeah.
And maybe the evidence pointed to them and you did your job and you prosecuted them, but they were maybe really innocent. And if I were to do that and I found out after the fact, I would have a really hard time reconciling that I was the prosecutor in that case. Now, I think a lot of people, I think fairly, will say, well, I did my job and that's what the evidence pointed and that's my role. I don't get to decide. But for me, just on a human level, I think I'd have a really hard time knowing that I was the person who did that and who stood before a jury or judge and said, lock this person away. They did it. So when people ask me, how can you ever defend somebody who's guilty? Well, my bigger fear is, could I prosecute someone that might have been innocent?
Right.
And to me, that's a scarier thought.
Wow. I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, elementary school, you thought about this? like how do you so focused and so profound? Like, do you remember? Like, do you remember like when you're born here, your brother wasn't, right? Your sister wasn't either, right?
She was.
She was.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you experience any racism as a child growing up? Did you experience any injustice?
So I certainly had run-ins with the police.
Okay.
When I was 13, I remember walking home and an officer put me in the back of the police car and drove me to the community center where there was a woman waiting there. And then he pulled me out and he said, "Is this the guy?" And she said, "No." And then she was apologizing to me. And then he just dropped me off on the side of the street again. And I went home.
Are you serious?
Yeah. That's happened to me. I've been pulled over and officers asked me if I had any bombs in the car that he should know about.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So these are different things that have happened to me. I don't know if it informed my decision to be a defense lawyer, but there's certainly things I've never forgotten. Yeah. So I mean, racism. Yeah. I mean, I guess these are forms of racism. But I guess
did it make you change? Did it change the way you carried yourself? Did you feel like you had to be a certain way? Like, and I guess what I'm asking is, there's the term code switching, right? And you know what that is,
yeah.
right? So, do you feel like you have to act a certain way, speak a certain way, like, and if you do, like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah. I don't know if I act. Oh, it's a tough question because I'd have to think about all my interactions and am I being myself in those moments or am or am I conforming to the situation? But is everybody in that situation? I guess I'm thinking in the courtroom. Am I still myself in the courtroom? And I try to be as close to myself as possible. But
So let me ask you this
yeah.
question: do you see a lot of people that look like you in your industry as a defense lawyer in Toronto?
No, certainly not. Certainly not. It's a almost the vast majority is older white male,
Right.
and older white female.
So you got to interact with these people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, prosecutors,
Yeah.
right? You've got to interact with them, and they're gonna look at you like you're a kid. So that's why I was just curious. Like,
Yeah.
do you find yourself having to be any different around anybody, whether that's been in the past or or even the present? But it's just curious because I do ask that question of my guest, and it's interesting the answers that I get back.
Yeah.
So I was just curious to ask you about that.
Yeah. And it's I definitely feel it. You definitely have to prove yourself when you walk in the room. No one's going to give you the benefit of competence.
Right.
You have to overcome the idea that I'm younger and racialized at all times.
Do you get any microaggressions?
Yeah, certainly. Like I remember when I was an articling student. So this is after you finish law school and started a firm. The senior lawyer asked me to go drop off this book of cases to the prosecutor. And I walked into the courthouse and I approached the prosecutor with this book, and he immediately called the officers over and said, keep this guy. I don't know why he's walking towards me with so much aggression, but keep him between, like, can you stand between us? And I said, no, I'm with the law firm. And he actually wasn't even that sorry about it. He just said, well, you should announce yourself next time before you start walking up to people.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that. But what's nice about my job is that, I like to do jury trials. And in a jury trial, I don't need the prosecutor or even the judge to think I'm competent. It's a jury of my peers who are different people. It could be a cab driver, it could be a teacher, it could be and they don't need, they're not establishment people. They're regular working people. And I think there's still sort of a default embedded in all of us to give deference to the people that we think fit the role.
Right.
But what I love about the law is that the truth speaks louder. And if the truth is on my side and the facts are on my side, then that wins the day. I've always felt that when I've presented my case strongly, the jury's with me, and they don't care how I look.
So in your mind, it level sets.
Yeah. I think truth is the neutralizer. I really believe that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as an overachiever?
It's a tough question. I mean, I think I've had every resource available to me to do what I've done. The opportunity's always been there for me, and I've seized it. So I don't think I'm an overachiever. I think I didn't waste the opportunities that I've been given. I think that's how I'd look at it.
Are you hard on yourself?
I don't think so. I'm very, I guess I feel proud and happy with where I am. So I think maybe I'm not hard on myself. But I haven't always been like this. I think I'm much more comfortable now that I'm older, probably.
It's meditation, man.
Yeah, the meditation. No, seriously, it's been a game changer.
I know. I tell everybody they got to try it.
Yeah,
man. It's definitely a work in progress, but man, it's changed. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So, how do you approach the unknown? Right, in life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In work. Like, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I think in undergrad and in high school and when I was younger, I was aware that I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know anything. I think, and so I spent a lot of time figuring out who I was and what mattered to me, and sort of making sure my compass was calibrated properly. And now I feel like I know who I am, so I don't worry about that stuff really.
Like, did somebody teach you that, or is it just innate? I mean, I struggled with that for like decades, so hats off to you.
Yeah.
Did somebody teach you that, or is it like something that it's just like your internal compass?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a good question. I thought everyone was sort of aware that they didn't know anything until a certain point. I really thought only a when I was a kid, I thought only adults had figured it out. So I thought kids were also trying to figure it out.
Dude, you mean adults haven't figured out life?
Right. Yeah. No, I see now that I've gotten here. But,
Yeah.
but
Like, I mean, just because of your age, man, I think that is no,
Yeah.
that's no mark to say that you've figured it out. I think there's a lot of adults. So that's why, I mean, hats off to you, right? That there's something unique about you that has you in, the mindset and the place that you are. Like, you seem like you're just fully aligned with who you are, man. And you're just calmly going through life. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. What's on your bucket list?
Nothing crazy. I think I think I've traveled to all the places that I wanted to travel to. I think career wise, I'm very happy where I am, and I can only see it going better from here. So I think just the staples: get married, start a family.
Wow.
Plant some trees. Like,
Yeah.
but that's what I'd like. That's what I'm excited about next. It's yeah, I've done a lot of the cool things that I always hoped I would do, and
Wow.
now I'll do the things that I always thought I would do later on in life. So I think I'm probably there now.
If you had to pick one thing as your proudest moment in your 30-something years,
Mhm.
what would it be?
It's sort of back to the start of the podcast is boxing. I know it's
Really?
yeah, I know
Wow.
it
That's
seems
cool.
I know it's weird because it's sort of like a high school sport that I did, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't it wasn't who I was. I was not an aggressive person. I was a more shy person. I never got into a fight. I didn't like violence. So boxing and training and winning to me was it showed me that I didn't even know, like, all these things I thought about who I was.
Yeah.
It was just in my head. I can actually be whoever I want, and to win a fight in front of maybe 100 people it just showed me that, wow, it's everything else is an illusion, and you can go anywhere and do anything you want.
You know what's interesting about that is that I have this thing that I repeat a lot where I say, growth occurs at the end of your comfort zone. And that's what I'm hearing from you, right? It's like to be able to get past those things, how you described yourself, right? Is that you're a non-fighter, you know, you are more reserved or more shy, right? And then to put yourself out there, it sounds to me like it helped you grow, right? It's another stepping block,
Yeah.
to you to get to where you are today on that path. Um, Success. What does that word mean to you?
Yeah, and it's changed a lot after my father passed, and I reflected on what life is. I think it's meaningful relationships. I think it's people knowing you're there for them, and people trusting you, and you impacting people. And I don't think it has to do with career. I don't think it has to do with accumulation of assets or resources. I think
Love it.
it's tied back again. As much as I think I have a responsibility to reassess whether I should be in Canada or not, I know that my relationships are so important. So I need to be there for my family and for my siblings and for my friends. And if they are going to be here, then I should be with them in case they need me. So it's I'm sort of always grappling between my responsibilities and for myself and for my
I
loved ones.
I can totally understand that. We talked about that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a tough one,
Yeah.
right? Because one of the things you think about, is I think I was listening to some Gary V podcast once, right? And he set the scenario where he's like, asked his audience to go to a retirement home, right? And look in the eyes of these people, right? And to see that some people have that look of regret in their eyes that they didn't
Right.
live the life that they were supposed to live.
Yeah.
Right. And that there is no second chance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I kind of grapple with that. Right. That's why I do things like, like this podcast, right? Like
Right.
to give it a try. And I don't want to have anything left on my list that I didn't accomplish.
Right.
Right. That was in my mind. So I know, I don't know, like, I struggle with the words like success, and not so much now as I did when I was younger,
Yeah.
and happiness and how that relates to fulfillment. And for me now, if I had to put them in order, like fulfillment is like at the top of my list.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But we live in this part of the planet where, quote unquote success is, it's a social currency.
Right.
If you don't have it, you feel less than.
Right.
Right. And you walk around with that, and then you amplify that with being a first or second generation Canadian, right? Because now, and especially if you want to join the ranks of corporate Canada or law or whatever, right? Like, you're roles that are dominated by the majority, right? And then you hear about all the things that they have, and then so you'll start to live in that headspace, right? That makes you not want to, do anything but capture this success that you think that's in your mind. But like, to me, fulfillment is the ultimate thing that kind of leads to happiness.
Right. Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
No, 100%. And I think, I don't think it's a static thing what success is at any point in your life. I think it changes. Like, what I thought success was 10 years ago is not what I thought it is now. But it doesn't mean it was wrong 10 years ago. It just means at the time, that's what was success. And
you just evolved.
right, exactly.
Right? You evolve. And I always say that, right? If we're not evolving, right, then we might as well be on the other side of the grass.
Right.
It's like, so that means you keep pushing yourself and you keep looking to see, how you can grow, and with the experiences that you're having today were the experiences you were having 10 years ago.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And as much as relationships are important to me now, had I not developed and grew my career and traveled, then I wouldn't have much to offer the people in my life in terms of perspective and support.
Yep.
So you need to grow in other ways, whether it's career wise or personally, to be able to come back and then develop relationships properly as a fully matured and grown person. So
yeah, how old are you? You sound like so wise. Wow. I know for a fact I wasn't thinking this way when I was your age. Wow. Kudos. Question. Superpowers.
yeah.
Right? I believe all of us have them. Right? And I believe that, like tapping into your core values, I think you should tap into what your superpowers are. Right? And it's the thing that you do. It's innate to you. And it's the thing that, only you can do. If I had to ask you a question, what your superpower or superpowers are, what would you say?
Yeah, it's a tough question for me. I feel that I'm in control most of the time. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not at a whim of my emotions, and I don't make decisions compulsively, really ever. I don't remember the last time I've been angry to a point where I'm saying things I don't mean or want to take back or regret. I have the ability to sort of separate myself from what I'm feeling in the moment and decide if
Wow.
I'm really angry at that thing or if I'm just or if this is something else that's bothering me. So
Right.
that's been really helpful for me because I don't have to apologize often for things that I didn't mean in the moment. Doesn't mean I don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
It just means that if I make a mistake, it's a controlled mistake, and it's what I believed in the moment, and that's why I said it. But it's not something that I said that I never believed out of anger or fear or anything else. So I have very good control in that way.
So that's your superpower. Wow. Wow. I'm gonna sit with that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I was expecting a different answer, but that's why I love doing this, right? You find out so many, I call it peeling back the onion, right? But the layers of a person to get to the core and just to really understand their why.
Mhm.
So this is the part where we make the conclusion to today's episode, right? But and it's always a part where I ask the same question every time, right? At the end of your earth journey, how do you want to be remembered?
It's something that I have never really thought about before. So this is even when you sent me a question a few days ago,
Yeah.
I thought maybe I should think about this now so that I can start to process. And I'm not much further than I was. I can only think of it day to day, and uh,
Is it because of your youth? Is it because you think, well, man, that's like 60 years from now. I got to worry about that.
yeah,
Is that maybe is that part of it that we don't think? I mean, even at my age, I don't even, it's taken me time. Me coming up with this concept and asking that question puts me even on, it had me thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I was asking, is it your age or is it something else that prohibits you from coming up with that answer?
yeah, and I think it's primarily like thinking about thinking about my father. It's that's just a big impact on that. And I think about him all the time, and I think that's the guy who did the right thing.
Wow.
And I hope people, when they think about me, they think he didn't do the easy thing, or he didn't do the thing that helped him out the most, or he did the right thing, even if it was the hard thing. He did the right thing, and that if that's what people thought about me, then I'd be pretty satisfied with that.
I love that. I love that, man. I want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank you for your transparency, and spending your Saturday morning. And I think, when we play this back, in our minds,
Yeah.
right? And then when we listen to it, I mean, today was really, really interesting speaking with you, man. And I've watched you pretty much, like Jay, like you guys have just, now you're men.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like now you're grown men.
Yeah.
As always, I leave with a quote, right? So I found another quote.
Yeah.
And this one, man, it was, I thought of you when I saw it. And I thought of me, and I thought of the legacy, concept in the show. So I'm going to read it. It says, impossible is just a word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact. It's an option. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. By the late, great Muhammad Ali, right? And so when I think about first and second generation Canadians and them making that leap of faith,
Right.
that almost seemed like it was impossible to do, but they did it, right? And that they rise to the occasion. And I continue to say this, and I'll continue over and over, that we've got to stand on the shoulders of each other, and we've just got to keep going up, right? Because I think the strength is there, and that's like, this is pulling it all together.
Right.
So that we can hear each other's stories and gain strength from it. Because I just learned something from you. I love how centered and aligned you are. That's more than, hey, I've got this great, up and coming defense attorney, right? But there's way more layers to you than that. So thank you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for tuning into the Who Project today. I hope our conversation has sparked a fire within you to reflect on your core values and the intentional choices that will define your journey. If you felt inspired by this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a boost of inspiration. Remember, your values are your guiding star. Let them lead you to a life brimming with purpose and fulfillment. Until next time, I'm PG, urging you to lead with what truly matters to you the most. And before I sign off, I want you to remember this: when you define who you are, you will discover the success you deserve.